Do you have that gut feeling you're being followed? Or is it you're home alone and you're getting that vibe something in the basement is lurking and waiting? Go ahead and give us your twisted encounter.
Hey folks, welcome to episode 3 of Twisted Encounters. Tonight's guest, we have Angie calling out of Lexington, Kentucky.
Thanks for having me on.
If you don't mind, please introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Angie. I'm 27 and I'm a full-time baker, currently living in Lexington.
Home of the bluegrass. I really love horse racing there.
For the past couple years, I don't think I ever missed a good horse race.
I'm definitely looking into another derby race again.
It's always beautiful here.
All right, Angie. It's about that time, so please tell us about your encounter.
My encounter took place 2 years ago. My uncle has a cabin just 1 hour outside of town. My uncle was never big on crowds, so he always isolates himself from locals. Every so often, my uncle sometimes visits my bakery shop, just letting us know he's doing well. Every year, my uncle asks one of our family members to watch the cabin while he visits his buddies in Florida for 2 weeks. I've been down to his cabin a few times, and I thought the place was too creepy for me. He constantly kept begging me to look over his place, but I told him to ask other members of the family. He was telling me the last time he had his nephews look over the cabin last year, they ended up trashing the place. I know he's my uncle, but he can be very irritating, so I said, fine, I'll do it. I told him that I'm not staying at that cabin by myself, so he encouraged me to bring down my boyfriend. Later that night, I reached out to my boyfriend. He should be aware that we'll be staying in the cabin for like 2 weeks. Oh my god, he seems more thrilled going down there than me. Really, my boyfriend is the extremist when it comes down to outdoor activities. Just before we got on the road, my boyfriend spent damn near an hour just packing the car with sleeping bags, tent, and so on. We arrived to the cabin kind of late, so we just unloaded what we can, but we'll retrieve the rest in the morning. Later that night, I was woken up by a strange noise outside. I quietly walked over to the window and seen a hairy man launching our camp equipment out of the trunk onto the ground. I ran over to the bed, smacking my boyfriend, trying to wake him up. I walked him over to the window and showed him the tall, hairy man going through our stuff. My boyfriend grabs my slippers and snatched the shotgun off the wall and marched outside to the car. When I got back to the window, the tall, hairy man was already gone. After what we both experienced, we both were all ready to leave. We both packed up the car and tried to leave, but the car wouldn't turn on. My boyfriend checked under the hood, and all the belts and plugs was all intact. My boyfriend checked the trunk, and he noticed that the battery was missing. We both ran back in the house and locked ourselves in the room. My uncle's cabin is not very big, and the door can be easily broken into with a little bit of force. I was starting to freak out watching my boyfriend pacing back and forth in the room with his shotgun on his shoulder, yelling and crying. We must have been up all night trying to get a signal on our cell phones. My boyfriend snapped and ran out the main door, firing off shots into the woods. I reached out and yanked him back inside and slammed the door. What really freaked us both out was the woods went silent and the real horror started. We were hearing large trees in the deep forest breaking and rocks thrown all around the cabin. I watched my boyfriend fall to the floor, crying and screaming. I have my eyes on the door, waiting for one of these beasts to run in and rip us both apart. These damn creatures torture us throughout the night, and thank God the sun finally came up. That very morning, a strange green truck pulled into the driveway. Thank goodness my uncle had his neighbor check on us the very next day. Well, that's my encounter.
Oh man, it was starting to sound like a movie for a second. Have you explained the torturing you and your boyfriend went through that night?
He told us he heard gunshots coming from the cabin, so that's what brought him there.
I can just imagine if your boyfriend would have never let out those gunshots that night, you both would still be out there stranded.
That's one of the main reasons why I didn't want to watch his cabin.
Was his neighbor ever aware of creatures lurking around his area?
He was telling us they both were aware of them living in the woods, but as long as you don't show aggression, they will leave you alone.
Seems like your boyfriend really went through some serious trauma. So, how's he holding up now?
Oh, he just finished up some counseling a few weeks ago.
Well, I'm glad he got through it.
We've been married over a year now.
Well, that's awesome. Do you still speak with your uncle?
Not as much as I used to, but he knows I'm still angry with him.
Well, it's starting to get late, so is there anything you want to add before we close out?
Before you take on any favors for anybody, be sure to know what you're getting yourself into.
Angie, I'd just like to thank you for giving us your encounter.
Thank you for hearing my story.
Have a safe night. You heard our encounter, so give us your twisted encounter. Goodbye, everyone. For tonight's guest, we have Walter calling out of Madison, Wisconsin. If you don't mind, Walter, please introduce yourself.
My name is Walter. I'm 37, and I'm a line cook at one of our diners here in Madison.
Oh, man. I sure do miss those days of local diners making the best flame-broiled burger, best homemade apple pie.
Yeah, we make it all homemade from scratch. None of that frozen, pre-cooked deals you get from restaurants these days.
Damn. I'm definitely gonna have to look you up next time I pass through Wisconsin.
Most definitely. Look us up for sure. We're open 24 hours.
All right, Walter. If you don't mind, let's get straight into your encounter.
I had my bad experience with my encounter just 4 years ago. Me and my girlfriend, Shirley, been together for over 5 years. That summer, Shirley thought it would be a great idea to go camping even though I love fishing. She was always big on overnight camping and family gatherings. She called it in and placed reservations on a campsite for the weekend. My girlfriend is always setting up plans without even notifying me. I do love the outdoors and I don't mind hiking or fishing, but staying overnight camping is just not me. I don't get to go out as much as I want to for some odd reason, so why the hell not? I've been working crazy hours at that damn diner for the past 4 months, so this would be a great time to take a break. I knew this would be the busiest time of the year and that there will be so many campers out, so I wanted to hold off, but my girlfriend insisted on making it this weekend. By this time, I didn't own a car, but I ended up borrowing my brother's truck for the trip. As I was saying before, I'm not big on camping, but Shirley was way more experienced, seeing as she was brought up by 3 brothers who loved to hunt. I remember that Friday morning. We pulled up and noticed the park was packed with RVs everywhere. My girl told me she knew an offbeat trail, half a mile down from camp. This trail was rough, and it didn't look like anybody was on it for years. She told me her brother told her to camp off-site if the camp got too busy. Her brothers grew up hunting together, so I didn't question her about it. 15 minutes later, we had already unloaded our camping gear from the truck, and I was ready to start fishing. Shirley was already starting to set up the tent and collecting firewood when I grabbed the fishing poles from the truck and started heading out to the lake. Just my luck, I happened to be the first one there, and you don't know how excited I really was. Just an hour into fishing after I had already caught 3 big snappers, I noticed a bunch of noise in the bushes around me. At that moment, I was thinking it could have been a deer because we're half a mile from the main trail and I knew there wasn't anybody there. The noises behind me stops and I started to see big rocks flying over my head into the water. I looked over my shoulder and I saw 4 kids pop their heads from the bushes, pointing at me laughing. At that moment, I was pissed. I'm kinda glad my girl picked a good spot off the beat from the main campus. Later on that day, Shirley cleaned up the fish, and we ended up having fish and beans that night. I would say 3 o'clock that morning, I woke up with so much pain in my stomach that I had to make my way back to the outhouse. Lucky for us, the outhouse was just a little hike down the road. That very night was pitch black, and I couldn't even find anything to wipe my behind with since those damn kids probably took off with the toilet paper. As a man, I had to do what's best and use my favorite good shirt to wipe myself. After stepping out from the outhouse, I heard a weird, low moaning noise coming from the bushes down below the hill. Ha! You know I had to be nosy and check out the free freak show, so I snuck my way down the hill. As I was closing in, I started to hear the moaning noise get louder and louder. What I saw, and I swear I couldn't believe what I was seeing, was a larger Bigfoot banging a much smaller Bigfoot over this small fallen log. Remember, I'm just 10 to 12 feet away from it, and boy can I smell that so-called fishy smell in the air. Not trying to sound like a pervert, but I didn't know if I should stay and watch or get the hell out of there. After, waiting a few minutes, I started to back out, but I must have stepped on a stick. The large creature instantly stopped and began sniffing the air in my direction. He spotted me out from behind the bushes and began charging at me, and boy was he fast. Within 2 steps, he was just a few feet away from me, so I panicked and I threw my messy shirt, striking him in the face. That night I had a good armor on me, and I swear that shirt wrapped around his face. As I was making my escape back to camp, I could hear the creature choking and gagging and knocking over trees and branches in anger. As soon as I got back to camp, I tried to wake my girl, but she snores so loud that she didn't even bother to open her eyes. After tugging on her swollen ankles, I couldn't get her up, so I jumped in my truck and got out of there. Well, hell, that's my encounter.
Hold on a minute. Please tell me you went back for your girlfriend.
She was just starting to wake up when I got back. I told her I went to go get some cigarettes.
I was hoping she would have kicked your ass.
Nah, I'm too pretty to fight.
Okay. Okay. Did she say anything about her encounter with the creature?
No, but I think the creature was trying to get that smell off his face more than anything.
You're one sick bastard, I tell you. Have you ever been back to that old campsite?
Hell no! You can't never pay me enough money to get me back out there again. I don't think I can ever forget the image of a Bigfoot creature charging at me, pissed with a hard-on.
Ugh. Never mind. Is there anything you want to add before we close out?
No. But be sure you drop by on Wednesdays. I'll be making apple pies.
No. But I think I'll have to pass on that. Thanks for giving me your encounter.
Thanks for having me on.
You've heard our encounter, so give us your twisted encounter. Goodbye, everyone.